Good morning, and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. We explore topics that get us thinking and talking, discovering the connections to ourselves, the people in our lives, our community, and the world around us. I'm Lori Fitz, host of Connections Radio, and today we have the St. Paul Art Collective joining us to talk about some amazing projects and the upcoming St. Paul Art Crawl Spring 2026. I'm going to give those dates right now. We'll be talking about it a little later, but it's April 10th and 12th, and that's for Ward 1, 3, and 4. April 17th through the 19th, that's Ward 2, and April 24th through the 26th, that's Ward 5, 6, and 7. I am going to first introduce the executive director of this fabulous St. Paul Art Collective, and we're delighted to have Marius join us today. Marius, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And you have been working on a beautiful art project. And I did say your last name, Marius Kujawski.
You did it perfectly.
Thank you. Marius Kujawski, who's the executive director. And you've been working on a project called Draw Together, a Minnesota community coloring book made by 100 local artists and students to remind us, our kids, you are loved, you belong here, and your neighbors have your back. It's a celebration of the power of community and the value of standing together in support of your neighbors. This is a project filled with heart, and I am so excited that we're able to help share that story.
Yeah, it's a beautiful project. We started it just about a month ago and put together with 115 artists that support Minnesota, lots of local artists, lots of artists from outside of Minnesota that have either roots in Minnesota or just want to be supportive of us and art culture here.
Well, you have invited some wonderful people to join us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share their name, and you can share a little bit about who they are, and then we'll welcome them. We have Caleb Van Diemen.
Yes, Caleb Van Diemen. Caleb is amazing. He's our fundraiser chair for our board for St. Paul Art Collective. He also has helped with this coloring book. He has much more to say about himself, I'm sure. But
well, welcome, Caleb, and I'm glad that you're back. You've been on my show before.
Yes, nice to be back. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Then we have Danny O'Sheaheimer. Danny O'Sheaheimer is joining us. He is the co-owner of Little Naturalist Education, and I'd love to have you share a little bit about him, my friend Marius.
Yes, Danny, I met online just a month ago, and he has made this amazing piece of art that's in the book. At the end of the book, he also has a company called Little Naturalist Education that he can talk about it a little bit more as well.
And we have Catherine Keith, who's joining us from Switzerland.
Catherine is an artist from Minnesota, but she does live in Switzerland, and we're really happy to have her. She made this beautiful piece of art in the book with a loon, very 10,000 lake situation.
And we have Emma Eubanks, who's an illustrator and a designer based in Nashville.
Emma's art is amazing. You really should see the illustration that Emma made in the book. It's interactive. It has a lot of community aspect to it. We're so happy to have her too.
So I'm going to start with Danny. Danny, I'd love to have you share about what drew you to this project. What was special about it? What ignited in you the desire to be a part of all of this?
Yeah. First, thanks for having me. This is really fun. So my wife and I used to run a preschool in our house. It's formerly Little Naturalist Preschool. As of yesterday, we launched our online platform for educators and parents. So we're kind of doing a shift here, but I was so excited to see this project online. It's such a good idea. And I really want it to allow the kids some space to feel their feelings about everything that's happening in Minnesota, in the States right now. When we were in the preschool, we had weekly conversations with the kids. And these are kids that are 3 to 5 years old that are experiencing things, seeing things, their friends are seeing things. And so we can choose to kind of shy away from that, or we can really look at it. And I think this coloring book is a great way to hold space for the kids in that through all this. So
I love that. Danny from Switzerland. Oh no, excuse me, Catherine from Switzerland. Tell me what motivates you to also want to be a part of this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've lived in Switzerland for quite some time now, but I'm born and raised in Minnesota, and I still have very deep connections there and lots of relationships. So it was really hard and extremely emotionally painful to witness what was happening with ICE. And I felt just a deep need to do something. And I felt very limited in how I could contribute something to the movement. And so I basically found myself compelled to make art. That was like one of the only things I felt that I was able to do. And so I saw the call for the coloring book on social media, and a couple friends sent it to me, and I thought that was a super nice idea. Also, the idea of strengthening the community, giving kids something positive to channel their thoughts into. And so I just tried to think of what kind of coloring page I would like to color if I were a kid. And then I tried to create something that would be fun to color that had a little Minnesota flair to it.
I was thinking about that as I looked through the book. I mean, the idea that an artist has to think about what to leave out so that it could be shared of what goes in is a fascinating idea as well. I'm going to go back to Caleb. Caleb, I know that you have two kids, and this is meaningful for you, especially now. Tell me more about how this has touched your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So there were many moments when I was having conversations and explaining things I never thought that I would have to explain to my children. And even though many families and other children experienced, more real danger and in different ways, children don't understand the context, and it was really hard to explain to them what was going on. But just the fear of them, their fear of going to school or going out into the community, and questions about what was going to happen, fear for their friends, that just filled me with so much anger as a parent, and being my job to keep them safe. But I didn't have to look far to be inspired by the art community around, and to see the response, people using their voice and their art, instead of fighting the intimidation and the use of fear. They did it with their voices and with their art and with their power in that way. And I was so inspired by that. And I really saw this as, the legacy that I want my kids to take away from this is that your art and your voice has power, and there's power in community. There's power in sticking up for your neighbors. And I wanted that to be, the silver lining and the lasting impact of this whole experience, that they would take those values. And while the rest of the world was watching Minnesota and the eyes were on us, I realized that our children's eyes were on, their community. And so this is really just a distillation of that, and a great way to communicate things that, that I struggled many times saying through words.
It's interesting because it reminds me of what you have on your webpage that describes the book. When our community faced hard times, it showed up. When fear and uncertainty swept through the Twin City neighborhood, something powerful happened. Minnesota families showed up for each other. Neighbors organized. Adults reminded kids that they are seen, they are safe, and they belong here. Draw Together was created to capture that spirit. These coloring pages are a love letter from our community to its children, filled with the values that shone through: standing up for your neighbor, finding strength in togetherness, and using art to say what words sometimes can't. Absolutely beautiful. Emma, my friend, you're out in Nashville, but you're also from Minnesota, right?
Yes, I am. I'm from St. Paul.
Yay, St. Paul. St. Paul Art Collective. Yay. A question. I know that you do a lot of amazing illustrations for children. What impact, though, from this project would you like to see this book make?
Yeah, well, I'll kind of start with just the really personal and move into the collective. Art for me, kind of regardless of what life has thrown at me on an individual level, and then just like as a Minnesotan, has always been kind of just the proof that things can be better, that things will be better, that I'm safe, that I'm taken care of. And just the idea of a book called Draw Together, I think really enforces that notion. My personal coloring page is about a group of kids that are engaging in all of the stages of planting an apple tree. And I think that as Minnesotans are drawing together and fighting together and like planting our own seeds together, the idea is that this book will just be one element I think that kids can take with them throughout their lives, that like we really are in it together and we're not going through any of this alone.
So you're not Johnny Appleseed, you're Emma Appleseed.
Exactly. Yes, in the collective of all of the apple seeds.
I love that. So now that I've had a chance to ask all of you a question, and I'm going to come back to Marius, I promise. I'd love to have you share with me. We started to talk about what it feels to have the art be in the hands of community members. There's kids, there's family, there's schools, and they're all, coloring their own way. What is that like for you? And what did you think about that? If you didn't think about that, you thought about something else as you were creating it, that's fine too. But I'm gonna start with Emma, and then we'll circle around.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you're drawing it on a piece of paper or on your computer, it's your art. And then the second it goes into anyone else's hands, it becomes all of our art, and it just takes on a life of its own. That's really, really beautiful. And I think that sort of transcendence is what it's all about. I mean, it just connects us to everyone else in a way that you just can't get if you're drawing on your own. And yeah, really, really brings out the power.
And Danny, I know you work with kids a lot. You might even be able to see them interacting. Tell me about your relationship.
Yeah, so I super briefly said this before, but we actually closed our doors to the preschool at the end of February. So we're in like a very big transition, but kids have always been a very big part of my life. I've been teaching for over 20 plus years, and it's a very clear shift that happened in January. I'll say that with what the kids are holding, and it showing up in the classroom, at home, with friends. And so, yeah, I love working with them through art. It's a great way for them to express their feelings in a safe way, while adults are able to get out there and do those things. And they have a lot of big feelings, so I think this can be a very powerful way for them to express and process those things. Yeah, I mean, for a long time we were making, and before I saw the St. Paul Art Collective post, we were just making a lot of signs every day, really just checking in with the kids and saying, let's come up with a safe way for us to express our feelings through this. And art was a very, very powerful pathway for that, to hold space for them. And once I saw the coloring book, I had to jump on board, and I just want the whole of St. Paul Art Collective to know that it really inspired my art in general. And since then, I've switched over to 3 different Illustrator programs, and have been doing mostly that. So thank you guys for that inspiration. And
I love that. I love that it not only was something that you gave, but that you gained in the experience too.
Yes, I'm very thankful.
Catherine, share with me.
I mean, on a personal level, for me, myself, it feels very moving to know that there will be some kind of physical something connecting me to the movement in Minnesota, because I'm a very sentimental person, very relationship oriented, and it was really excruciating for me to be so far away while such horrifically unprecedented things were happening. And I'm not a professional artist. I'm training to be an art therapist, so it also feels very in line with the coloring book, how much comfort and how many, self-soothing skills can come through art, especially for kids and for everybody. But so I represent more of the layman side of things, but interestingly, kind of my, I guess, online presence became drastically more art oriented throughout the ice crisis, because it just felt like, yeah, my little thing that I can contribute, no matter how small. So it's been very honoring. I feel extremely honored when friends or family of mine have like printed my little protest posters I made and had them at the actual physical rallies in Minnesota. And then this is a similar feeling. I just feel very honored to think that my little picture might be somewhere being colored by some kids in the cities. That feels super nice. Yeah, and the project is just a beautiful idea. I think it was a really cool initiative, and the sort of crowdsourcing aspect with all kinds of different artists and all kinds of different drawing styles. It's just a really, really lovely project.
Marius, now you've heard all these wonderful artists sharing about their experience, and you led this effort in a month, which is pretty amazing. I'd love to have you share about, the big picture in bringing this all together.
Yeah, I think the big picture is to help kids process, like you guys explained and nicely. The main reason for this book is to have the book accessible on our website for free to download, so people can download at their homes. So the idea was that maybe their neighbors can print it for them, or schools can print it. And that was just an idea, but I can say in full confidence that now the idea is definitely happening. I've seen schools printing their coloring books for their classes. I've seen community members printing it for the community, kids, after school events. I know that there are the kids that are in the book. So the book has anybody from 7-year-old to 77-year-old. We have about 200 people submitting, and 115 got in the book. And the people that didn't get in the physical book, I was able to print their work and share it with kids here in St. Paul, specifically on the West Side. So their work was also, seen by the kids, because they put in some work. And I know that one of the kids that was in the book just today had her whole class. Her grandma bought the book for her whole class.
Oh.
And she was so embarrassed to be like, I don't want anybody to see my art. What if they laugh at me? And so then the teacher was like, maybe you should introduce it at the end of the class. You just tell them about it. And so she did. And then at the end of the class, she was just signing autographs for her friends on the page that she did.
I love it.
And they got these beautiful photos. I was like, this is so, I cry every other day with people sending me information about how they're utilizing the free downloadable version. And then there's a paper copy also available.
Now, I want to talk about that, but before we do, I just want to also mention that the St. Paul school system is distributing it, correct?
Yeah, the St. Paul school system was able to help us and look through the book. So it is approved by an educator from St. Paul School Systems, and they are sharing it with the parents, with their teachers. We are working through how we are going to have it shared, most likely through the free downloadable version, but there's going to be an opportunity for the school to also print some books for the kids that are in online learning school right now, because the school is back, but people that didn't have means to go back or didn't feel comfortable going back, they switched to online school learning.
Well, I want to make sure that our audience knows they can go to the stpaulartcollective.org. Again, that's stpaulartcollective.org. There is a button that you can push on there about learning more about drawing together, which I love the title, because we're drawing together. Not only we're drawing, but we're drawing together. I love that. But there are two ways that folks can do it. And you were mentioning this. You can print it home, download the complete coloring book. It's a free PDF, and we believe every child should have access to this project. Teachers and community members are welcome to print and share. as a non-commercial gift, and it's a donation that's warmly appreciated and helps us meet our goal to make this available to every child in St. Paul, in the Twin Cities. And I read that right from your webpage. The other one is a printed copy, and I will admit I have already bought 3, and I will be buying more. And it makes a beautiful gift. The printed copy you can buy on Amazon, and you get a beautiful, high quality printed copy to keep, share, or give as a gift. Proceeds support the St. Paul Art Collective and help support a wider distribution of this book and art activities for families in the Twin Cities. So you can buy that on Amazon. So I wanted to make sure that folks knew that this art collective and these artists that you're hearing today really want to put this book in every kid's hands. If you also want to make a donation that is warmly will be warmly received and delighted, so that there's donations that you can get that can help fund the printing costs, the distribution, community outreach, and the coordination that makes all of this access possible. And I will repeat so that you know how to get to the website. That's stpaulartcollective.org. Want to just thank everyone for coming today on this first segment and to learn about the Art Collect. Now, earlier, our friend Marius put the book up. I'm going to put the book up too. It's probably backwards. It is coming up just great. And everyone else is putting up too. So for those that are watching this, because you can watch this as well as you can hear this on audio, this is what the book looks like. It's a treasure. And we're delighted that we have AM 950 on the back. Thank you, Marius. But there's also some other great sponsors that that have supported this, the Springboard for the Arts, and the Public Art St. Paul, and several others that we're deeply appreciative have made this come to life. So in our next segment, we're going to be talking about some of the folks that work at the St. Paul Art Collective, that volunteer at the St. Paul Art Collective, and some of the other cool projects. Thank you all. You're all terrific artists. You all have your heart in these drawings, and I'm delighted to have a part of each of you in the book that I own.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'll be right back after just a few announcements, and then we'll come back for segment 2. Have a great day. Thanks, artists. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, and our show is all about ideas that matter, and I'm glad you've joined the conversation. Today, we have the St. Paul Art Collective joining us to talk about some amazing projects and, of course, the upcoming St. Paul Art Crawl. And this is the spring 2026. We have Marius Kujawski, who's the executive director, joining us. And I'm excited about the dates. You've moved them into 3 weekends, right, Marius?
Yeah, there are 3 weekends, so some of the artists can see each other's work.
Perfect. And it gives me time to go see more of the artists, because I had a hard time trying to get it all in one weekend. But I used to try, but I at least try to go to like most of the wards, so that I at least felt I had spanned. But now I've got the dates and the wards, so folks can know all about this. April 10th through the 12th, and that's Ward 1, 3, and 4. April 17th through the 19th, and that's Ward 2. And April 24th through the 26th, that's Ward 5, 6, and 7. For those of you who have gone to the St. Paul Art Crawl, you know how amazing it is. And I want to encourage you to think about coming every weekend so that you can see many of the arts. If you haven't been to the St. Paul Art Crawl, oh my gosh, you got to go. There's all kinds of art there, and there are all kinds of price points. And one thing I always like to make mention of is that when you support local artists, you're really supporting our economy, because what you invest in arts here stays here. When you buy it from the big corporations, those monies go all kinds of different places. But when you're committed to doing art and supporting art in our community, it develops the artist, it supports the community, and it gives you a beautiful piece to remember the St. Paul Art Crawl. I always try to make a point to buy at least one thing every year at the St. Paul Art Crawl, so that I've got a memory of my time there. And with that, the the various places that you can go is all online. You can go to stpaulartcollective.org, and you can get to, by pressing a little button, the St. Paul Art Crawl. Marius, is there anything else you want to say before we introduce some great volunteers that are helping out with the Art Collective?
Well, the St. Paul Crawl has been around since 1991. And like you said, it used to be one weekend, spring and fall. And now it's 3 weekends in the spring and 1 weekend in the fall. I got a lot of feedback from artists saying, hey, I haven't been able to see my friend's work since 1991. So this is good. I can go and see someone's work and not have to talk to the customer and sell my work. So we have 35 venues. So there are galleries, museums, community centers, and over 300 artists showing this spring. And there will be music, food trucks, and live painting. But also go and talk to the artists. They have been working on this their whole life. Though they've been, working really hard for the last 3 months. They had some work that has been there with them for a while, so buy it.
You bring up a good point that I also like to encourage people to think about. Going to the art crawl, it's fun to see the art, and it's really fun to talk to the artist. And sometimes people feel shy about asking the artist, and is it okay, and what should I say? And what I've encouraged people to do is when they look at the art, just share what they see, share how they experience that art, and then lead to a conversation, because I think that creates that sense of community with the art as well, that we are looking to support artists, but we're also there to be excited about the art and to learn from the artists themselves what it meant to them. And it may be the same, but it may not be. And I love that. I love those conversations.
And just like with the Draw Together book we talked about in the last segment, there are artists at all levels. There are artists that are 10 years old that just made stickers. They want to sell stickers. They want to talk to people. Their parents are there helping them out. And there are artists that have a Guggenheim Award, and they've been there for a while in the community. And so them showing next to one another is a beautiful way I see the community being built that way.
Wonderful. Well, now I'd like to bring in two wonderful volunteers that support the St. Paul Art Collective. I'm going to start with Caleb, and Caleb joined us in the last segment as well. Caleb Van Diemen. Yay, I am pronouncing it correctly. You are the fundraising chair, and I'm going to want to come back and talk a little bit more about that. But I want you to be thinking about, why it's important for you to be a part of the Art Collective as a volunteer. Why have you chosen? And now I'm going to introduce someone who's joining us this segment, Lietta Douglas. Welcome, Lietta. And I understand that you are the programming chair for the St. Paul Art Collective.
Yes, I am.
And I would love to know from you first, Lietta, why have you chosen the St. Paul Art Collective? Why is it important to you to give your time and to support? Because my guess is, being the programming chair, you give a lot of time to support this effort.
Well, I guess it's because of it's my background. I've been an artist all my life, and I when I finally got out of high school, I went to school. I got a scholarship to Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and I went to the University of Minnesota, and I've just been in art. And then I ended up in Houston, Texas, and I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in environmental design. And so I was an architectural designer for many years, and I had my own business. And so finally, I came back home to Minnesota because I was born and raised in St. Paul, and then I became a teacher. I got my master's in education, and I was an elementary teacher for 16 years in St. Paul school system. And so then now I'm retired. So and I worked for I volunteered for a lot of community organizations. So, but then I said, now I just want to do what I really love. I wanted to get back to what I love, and that's art. And so I started back drawing and painting. And, the art field is hard to get into, and I wanted to sell my art. And so I said, I just need to join some art organizations. And so that's what I did. So I saw the St. Paul Art Collective, and I said, wow, this looks like a great organization to join. And so I did. They accepted me for the board. That's how I got onto the program committee. And yeah, I've just been having a wonderful time. The people on the, St. Paul Art Collective are great people. And we've been doing a lot of things. So yeah, that's how it happened.
And how long have you been doing work with the Art Collective?
I think I've been on the board for about 2 years now.
And you jumped right in at the board level.
Yeah, I can't believe
I love that. Yeah, you guys look cool. Can you let me on the board? Well, I'm sure that they appreciate all your hard work, and you've got a great experience behind you as well, and expertise that really I have to imagine supports continuing the vision and the details that need to be done. And I want to get now back to our friend Caleb, who's our fundraising chair. And that's a lot of work. There's sponsorships, there's coordination. And you talked a little bit about why especially the drawing together was important. And that was one part of fundraising, but you do a lot more. So first I want you to tell me, why do you volunteer? And then tell me about some of the projects you're working on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was introduced to the Art Crawl. I am a transplant from Indianapolis, and I've been here for about 10 years. And I was here for 5 years before I ever even heard of the St. Paul Art Crawl, which is, wild to me now because I think it's so special. But I had my office, a digital marketing company in Lower Town in St. Paul. And the Art Crawl just came, basically right through my front door. And that's how I first was exposed to it. And I just thought it was a remarkable event for the same reasons or similar reasons that Marius said about having new artists and extremely established, successful artists, all together, the whole, strata, every layer of experience. And I just recognize how valuable that is to a community to have an audience and a forum, some platform where artists of all levels can connect and collaborate, meet one another and, work through developing new connections, selling their work. That's a critical infrastructure component to a community that has a strong arts ecosystem. And that's just something that is important to me, raising my daughters here. I know that a strong community is one that has, invests in its arts and its cultural identity. And the only way to do that is by, celebrating and participating in the arts. So when I was exposed to it, with my background in digital marketing and entrepreneurship, and just my, appreciation for creativity and crowd problem solving, I knew that I could apply my skill sets less as an artist, but more as someone who supports the arts, who knows how to, create, make dollars appear, create value for our community in exchange for, grant dollars and donations. And I can help make this happen. And that's the way that I wanted to contribute.
That's fabulous. I know it's a lot of hard work, but it's also storytelling. It's being able to share all the wonderful work, and you do it beautifully and passionately. And especially thinking about it as a legacy as well for the kids to know and to carry on. I know that I love art partially because my parents started taking me to art fairs when I was 5 years old and bought me art when I was 5 years old at art fairs. So it became part of who I am, is loving art and supporting the arts. So I know you've got a lot going on. Share with me some of the big projects that you're working on as a fundraiser.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. When I first joined the board about 3 years ago, right on the heels of COVID, the St. Paul Art Collective was really, sort of circling the drain, just a lot of burnt out individuals that have been apart for a long time and a lot of things that, happened outside of their control. And it was, really sort of on its last leg. But since then, we've been creating so much momentum, and a lot of folks jump in that realize this is an extremely valuable component of our community and our arts ecosystem. And we've tried a lot of different programs, and we've tried a lot of different approaches, and we've, thrown a lot of things against the wall to see if they stuck. And many of them have, some of them haven't, of course. But we realized if we take all of these different programs that have been successful, they really focus on three primary components, and it's access to the arts, and that's giving access to the general public, giving them free opportunities to participate in the arts, like the Art Crawl, like our Draw Together book, where they can access the art there. And it's access for the artists, giving them a place to showcase their work, putting them in front of large audiences, like the Art Crawl. Putting 100 artists in our coloring book in front of, almost 500,000 people now. So access is the first leg. The second is connection. We have a lot of different events and programs where we're just bringing people together. And that's really the foundation of all of those is simple but powerful. We have our sketchy nights where people get together and they just draw, and really they hang out, but they can draw and they can sketch as an excuse to be there in the same room with other artists. They can meet. It's been so cool to see collaborations and friendships come out of that, and sort of tribal knowledge come out of that. We do member meetups. Sometimes we just show up at a bar, invite all of our members. We just hang out and we talk with people who have similar interests, and that's been really, really neat. And then we have a nonprofit cohort where we have, in less than a year, we've grown. We started this program. We have 50 nonprofits that just join in the room once a month, and we share what we're working on, and we talk about how we can support one another, share resources. And it's just been really powerful to see the fruits of just bringing people together in that way too. And a big part of this is our free artist memberships. That was a change in our fundraising model. Instead of extracting money from the artist, we wanted to focus on other fundraising models. We made our artist memberships free, and we've grown to over 1,000 members. I think we've 5x'd our membership in a very short amount of time. So we just want to bring people together. So access, connection, those are two legs. And the third is sustainability. And that's really, the part I'm focused on, which is, finding other revenue sources, putting a lot of more energy into our fundraising approach, and, centering in how we can sustain the arts ecosystem in St. Paul. And part of that's working with legislators, grants, finding other funding sources, and building a base of donors.
Are there any foundations that you want to do a shout out to?
I think it's been really neat to just see how many, new connections that we've made from, just with the grassroots organization. It's been mostly individuals and, some of our partner organizations that have been huge contributors.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come back to Lietta. Lietta, tell me about some of your favorite programming that you've been working on.
Oh, well, yeah. So when I started, I was trying to think of something that we could get involved in. So a few years ago, I saw on the news that the Minneapolis airport was looking for Minnesota artists. And I said, well, hey, that's us, So, they said that they wanted organizations to come together and submit. So I also belong to the Rojo Art Collective in Minneapolis. It's an African-American art collective and people of color. So I said, wow, we should go in together. So we did. We all submitted and we were selected. So we've got about 11 artists participating in the exhibit, and we're going to be showing from June 1st through December 1st of this year. And we're in Terminal 1, Concourse C, which is the largest concourse at the airport. And, so yeah, we're all excited about that. And it's going to happen. We've been working on it, trying to get ready for it. And they plan to have an opening reception for us in June. So that's really exciting. So that's what we're working on now.
And are you choosing, are people stepping up to the plate saying, hey, I want to be a part of this? Or what's the process of getting the art from the artists there, and how you choose which artists are going to be participating?
Right. Well, it's been a long process. So we started, it's like almost 2 years ago. So we first we put out, Mariette and I, to the members in the St. Paul Art Collective, and we were just going to do a first come, first serve basis. So we said the first 5. So that's what we did. And Rojo did it also. And so the first 5 came in because, we've got a lot of members. So yeah. And so the ones that were interested, they applied. So we selected them. And then we had to submit to the airport to be verified and everything. That was a big process too, because we had to submit art, we had to submit resumes, and we had to have a proposal and all sorts of things. So yeah, and then finally, it was a waiting process, and they came back and said, okay, they selected us, and so now it's a big production. It's a major production. We've got to artists had to select the arts that they want to work with, and we've got a certain amount of space to work with. So we had to, actually, I I'm in it too. So I just, my background is in architectural design. So I laid my art out and I drafted it up and I put the dimensions and everything, as we only have a certain amount of space to work with. So yeah, so all the artists are getting ready, so we should be ready to go here pretty soon.
And another follow-up question, because I'm fascinated by this. Is it one type of art? Are you having like mixed media? Are what give me a little bit of a preview of what we might expect to see?
Yeah, it is mixed media. A lot of us, we do different things. I know I do abstracts and then I have figures. I know some of the artists, because we actually met at the airport with Sam Fuentes, who is the director of the Minneapolis Airport art exhibits. And so there were about 5 of us there. And, we were just talking about the different type of art that we have. So I know one of the artists she does jewelry and things, I think there's some people do pottery there, in the section that we're in, it's so big that it accommodates larger pieces and different things. So it's going to be a variety of art. Yeah.
Well, your reception, I bet, is going to be a lot of fun. I used to travel a lot more, and it's right by the walkway, and it's just before the Delta Sky, whatever they are called.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that area is so much fun. I always look forward to seeing what art was there. And now to know that it's going to be the St. Paul Art Collective in Rojo that's there gives me a special pride. I'm delighted and I'm excited for you.
Yeah, we'll have to invite you to the reception. I've been telling all my friends.
I would love that. Yes, please do. And I will be there with bells on. That would be great fun. Well, Marius, we're going to have another segment, but is there something that you'd like to kind of summarize from working with these great folks and your role as the executive director in working on these projects?
Yeah, so, I'm a part-time executive director. We are working on getting more of people hired so these folks don't have to volunteer their life away and they can focus on the higher end stuff for communicating with the city or talking to our founders. But I am just so proud of all the board members that are with us. They are all amazing volunteers and they'll have their focus and they're doing really well. Caleb doesn't talk about it enough, but he's amazing at finding people to our role. He does all the advertising for us. Leah, like she said, she was able to pretty much connect us with Minneapolis and the Rojo Collective. So that's how we were able to pitch the airport. It's Minneapolis, St. Paul coming together, and there's a river. We should be at this airport. Yeah, so
I love it.
Yeah, and I'm new to the city, so I'm always learning about people and people who have worked with the collective or who want to work with the collective. So I didn't really know many people when I joined. So we started this nonprofit cohort with 4 nonprofits. Now we have over 50 nonprofits. So we have executive directors come to the room and scream across the room like, "I have a space for you. Come here. We have a person that does photography. They'll do it for you. Let's do a workshop together. Let's write a grant together." So I'm inspired every day by all these groups of people trying to connect. And it's like in the background where people don't really see it, but it is happening.
I have one more follow-up before we have to go to break and go to our next segment. And that is, I want to know from you, what brought you to the Art Collective? How did you get involved? What was it about the Art Collective that drew you there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think for me is continuing the tradition that the artists started in St. Paul. My wife is from St. Paul. Her parents were one of the few artists that started Lowertown Loft Artists Cooperative, which was one of the St. Paul Collective projects for affordable housing in Lowertown. It's the oldest artist-owned building cooperative in the state. So I wanted to continue the tradition of their work, and just the amount of work people put in and applying for grants, making sure that all the papers are on board and all the spreadsheets with their artist names, emails, phone numbers. We didn't want to lose all that. We don't want to make their work go to the books just okay, we're closing the collective. Let's not. So lots of us came together and decided, hey, how can we build a strategic plan? So about 3 years ago, we started a strategic plan for a 3-year plan. So this is our last year. We're going to start a new one. And that helped us get our ducks in a row. So what is the purpose of the collective? Do we really need to charge artists? Do we really, the art crawls are free. We don't need to make them, people don't have to pay for tickets. And how can we connect the artists to the artists, nonprofits to the artists, the city? Caleb and I just were able to write a bill for us to be able to go from if it passes, go from a mostly volunteer organization to a staffed organization. There's a lot of moving parts, and I am a dancer and I'm a choreographer, and I like composing space. So that's just amplifying that.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it is magical. The image I get when you talk about it is the phoenix rising and transformed, and yet coming from loss to gain, and where can that go? A bird that soars.
Yeah, and we came from the ashes. Someone had to make them.
That's right. That's right. Well, with that, I want to thank both Lieta and Caleb. Thank you so much for sharing what you do and the art that you support and the art that you do yourselves. It's a beautiful thing. And the Art Collective, I am overjoyed, is continuing and becoming even more powerful. And we're going to take a break. And then my friend Marius is going to come back and we're going to talk even more about the vision and the purpose of the Art Collective and what's next to be thinking about. So stay with us. We'll be right back after just a few commercials. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and we have been having a great conversation with folks from the St. Paul Art Collective. They were joining us to talk about some amazing projects. The first thing that we talked about was Draw Together, a community coloring book, terrific event that brought artists together to create coloring books for kids. And for more information on that, you can go to our St. Paul Art collective.org and you can push the button for Drawing Together. We next talked to some of the artists that created that, and then we talked to some terrific volunteers from the St. Paul Art Collective and the work that they're doing both in programming and in fundraising. And in our last segment here, we want to again be able to encourage folks to come to the St. Paul Art Crawl that's coming up just around the corner. April 10th through the 12th, Ward 1, 3, and 4, April 17th through the 19th, Ward 2, and April 24th through the 26th for Ward 5, 6, and 7. And Marius Kujawski is the executive director, and I'd love to have you have a few closing words for us for the end of our program.
Yeah, so we are doing so many things, have programs for artists, nonprofits. How can we digest this? It's really a cultural club for everybody to join our club. If you're an artist, if you're a nonprofit, if you're a business that wants to show art during the art crawl, that's how people come to us. They say, hey, I have a couple paintings in the coffee shop. Can I come to show out the art crawl? And then you come and fill out the membership as a business and join us. The club is open for everybody to join. I love club is for free. But really is about just making connections with others and networking in the best way possible through the arts.
If you're an artist, come and see fellow artists and their art. If you want to buy art, this is the place to go. There are so many different venues and types of art. And again, you need to go to the St. Paul Art Collective and you push the button on there to know all the different sites and places to go. And, if you are just a business that cares about what's happening in St. Paul, you need to be part of this as well. So Marius, thank you for letting me know about the Drawing Together. AM 950 is very proud to be one of the sponsors. Thank you for bringing great people today on the Connections radio show. And thank you for all that you do. You're imaginative, you're thoughtful, and you've got your heart in the right place of growing the St. Paul Art Collective.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you for joining the club.
Yes, of course. I want to be a big club member.
We need stickers.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.